Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. It is very early. Just to timestamp this, it is 9:10 on Friday morning. And for the benefit of those listening on the audio, my name is James. You're listening to my regular afternoon Ask James stream. But as we've got a Friday deadline, I thought we should probably do this earlier. Plus, I'll be streaming again on YouTube at 5:30 this afternoon in the final hour before deadline. So I would very much welcome some questions that aren't just FPL related. But before we do, as usual, I will go through the team news that I know of so far. And it's worth saying, obviously, again, it's 9:10 in the morning. There are a lot more, maybe more news today. Don't take everything I'm about to say as gospel. But team news that we know of so far. So game week starts with Villa against Leeds this evening. Keenan Davis is in contention. Obviously wouldn't have started anyway. Tom Heaton, Courtney Hawes and Wesley remain out. For Leeds, Marcelo Bielsa very kindly told us that 4.0 defender Struijk will replace Calvin Phillips in midfield, who is out for around about 6 weeks with a shoulder injury. Llorente remains out. Cooper remains a doubt. He obviously pulled out of the Leeds Wolves fixture pre-game. He's got a groin issue, I believe, so they're trying to manage it. I think they're desperate for him to play, but he'll probably get him to about 80% fit. He'll probably play, I should imagine. West Ham versus Manchester City kicks off our Saturday afternoon. Antonio and Sebastian Haller were both pictured in training yesterday, so should be okay to start. Available for his debut, although obviously if Antonio has passed fit, we don't expect him to start. Merrick Laporte and Kevin De Bruyne trained. Landini are out for 4 weeks. Alexander Zinchenko is available. Benjamin Mendy is a doubt. Nathan Aki should be fit. Gabriel Jesus began light training yesterday. Obviously won't be considered this weekend. I wouldn't have thought. Fulham. Scott Parker had his press conference yesterday, so this is probably all you'll get. Anderson, Teti, Congolo, and Onoma all out long term. Harrison Reed has trained this week, so should be available. For Crystal Palace, Gary Cahill took a heavy kick following that tackle from Lewis Dunk late in the fixture against Brighton, but should be okay. Jordan Ayew, I presume, misses out again with COVID. For Manchester United, Anthony Martial is obviously suspended. The second is 3-game ban. Eric Bailly is likely to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. Harry Maguire and Mason Greenwood both doubts. My expectation would be that Manchester United stay with the 3 at the back system that won at PSG on Tuesday. For Chelsea, Frank Lampard will continue to manage Thiago Silva, but he should be okay to play. Edward Mendy played in goal against Seville on Tuesday. For Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp dismissed fears over Sadio Mane being pictured with an ice pack on his leg after his substitution against Ajax in midweek. It's a dead leg that he's suffering from, but should be absolutely fine. Thiago Alcantara, I presume, is out following Richarlison's very reckless challenge in the Merseyside derby. Joel Matip remains a doubt, but Klopp has been very cagey in terms of describing what the potential issue may be for there. I suspect that he's important for them and they're just managing him, and that's why he didn't travel to Amsterdam. Alisson is getting close to a return. I would guess that this weekend is too soon, but next week he might be available. For Sheffield United, Chris Wilders confirmed yesterday that Jack O'Connell is out for the season. Lisa Mousset may struggle to play again in 2020. John Fleck is out for a month. They're also waiting on a report of Max Lowe, who suffered concussion in the first half against Fulham. My understanding is it's 7-day protocols on concussion. The Liverpool game falls within that timeline, so I would assume that Lowe won't play. Therefore, Ender Stevens probably plays at left wing back and Jack Robinson at centre half. Southampton, not a lot to report. I'm guessing that Stuart Armstrong may be in contention. Depends on the timeline of when his COVID test was passed while he was on international duty with Scotland. I think he might be available. For Everton, I think he will not be available, is the quote from Carlo Ancelotti on James Rodriguez. Take that as you will. I don't think Ancelotti's trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. He thinks he won't be available, but game is on Sunday. Seamus Coleman is out to 2 to 3 weeks. John Joe Kenny should be available to deputise. If not, Ben Godfrey is likely to fill in again at right back. Obviously, Richarlison is suspended. For Wolves, not had any news timeline-wise from them since the victory over Leeds on Monday night, so not expecting any issues, but one to keep an eye out for. Newcastle, Cole Darlow should be okay. Scans showed only bone bruising. Most of you would have seen him hobbling about for the final 15 minutes or so against Manchester United last weekend. Isaac Hayden, likely to be ruled out. Tried to continue in the second half with a tight hamstring, had to come off. I assume he will be out. Arsenal obviously won in Austria last night. Dani Ceballos and Willian, ankle and calf respectively, I presume will be assessed. They didn't travel to Austria last night. Doesn't mean they're out for the weekend. But Rob Holding will be. He's out for 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. For Leicester, they played in Europa League as well last night. Won 3-0. James Maddison started and scored. Kagler Sionku is ruled out till 2021. Jamie Vardy remains a doubt. I suspect he'll be okay. And it didn't play again last night, which was precautionary. Ricardo Pereira is still a way off. He said this week, aiming for a return in 6 weeks. Brighton and West Brom is on Monday. Graham Potter reported yesterday that Johan Bash is the only injury, which means reserve keeper Christian Walton is in training. Danny Welbeck, signed as a free agent, is in contention. Lewis Dunk is obviously suspended. For West Bromwich Albion, the only news from Slaven Bilic's press conference yesterday was that Sam Field is still around about a month away from being in contention. Not expecting any fresh injury concerns for them. For Burnley and Tottenham, who end the game week on Monday night, Phil Bardsley will be out with COVID. Eric Peters is a doubt. Matt Lowton and Ben Mee back in training, but according to Sean Dyche, Ben Mee is not ready to play. I'm cautious of that because the game's not till Monday. On Thursday, he wasn't ready to play, but I wonder if they've got serious injuries, if he might be ready by Monday. But according to Dyche, he won't play. For Tottenham, Eric Dyer, to me, appears the only injury doubt at the moment. Mourinho's press conference was after the win over Linz last night, but nobody had the foresight to ask him about Eric Dyer. So we probably are not getting any news. The game's not till Monday. Your guess is as good as mine if Eric Dyer will be available or not. Eric Lamela started. Giovanni Lo Celso played the last 15 minutes. So both of those two are available. That's your team news, but I must stress for those particularly listening on the audio or watching later on YouTube, it's 9:20 in the morning, basically. There are a number of press conferences this afternoon. Please keep an eye out for them. Right, let's get into the questions. Joshua Tan says, seems like KDB is back and I've transferred him out. Oh, well, look, here's the risk with early transfers, right? Risk and reward. You save the value or you gain the value. It's always all right to say after the horse is bolted, oh, you shouldn't make an early transfer. I mean, in this particular one, really, it was moved last Friday or last Saturday morning and then wait for the news this week, to be very honest with you. But yeah, it happens. I've seen quite a few people bought James Rodriguez early in the week looking to get a rise. We presume now it's out. It happens. It's life. It's part of the risk whenever you make an early transfer. Ray Kunis says, morning, mate. Hope you're good. I am. Thank you, Ray. Hope you're well too. Sanjay Joseph says, Maupay or Watkins? For me, Maupay, but it's going to lean into Ollie Watkins very shortly. I think Maupay's got West Brom and Burnley in the next 3. Obviously, Tottenham away sandwiched in between that. I think just Maupay, but probably beyond this week, I'd be saying Watkins to you. Ray Guna says, who do you prefer out of Son, Sterling for the next 3? I'll be transferring out KDB for 1, as I don't think he starts. Got a plan for City from game week 10, but not sure if it's riskier going no City or no Spurs. It's probably at this moment riskier going no Spurs, actually, for a change. That's probably the bigger risk. But I would say, are you looking to sell one of them, Ray? Because if you've got Son and Sterling in your team, don't play around with that. Just leave it. Don't force De Bruyne back in when we can't be certain if he's going to start or not. Ray says he owns Foden if that makes any difference. It doesn't make any. He's a nice budget option at the moment. Jack Wilson says, hey, James, your thoughts of Rodriguez actually playing, quote, saying, I think he doesn't. Yeah, as I said, suggests he could actually play, question, also continued during the Liverpool versus Everton game from the VVD tackle. I've spoken about this before about players continuing and then having the injury afterwards. I mean, there's no greater case than Heung-min Son when he played at Aston Villa in February, who what was it, like hairline fracture of the arm or something he had? He got that in the first minute of the game. He scored twice, including an injury time winner, and then was out for 3 months, right? So sometimes it's really odd. I had that where I was playing five-a-side and I fractured my arm and carried on playing. Don't get me wrong, it's not fucking professional sport or anything. But it wasn't till about an hour later I was like, Jesus Christ, I need to get someone to look at this now. Sometimes just adrenaline just carries you through and you just go beyond pain. So quite often when you get heavy knots and things like that or something feels tight, once you physically stop, issues become worse. So that I would read nothing into the fact that James kept playing in the game, nothing at all. I don't believe Ancelotti's lying in any way. I think he's genuine saying, I don't think he'll play. So that's it. I don't think he'll play either. It wouldn't shock me, but I don't think he'll play. I think for those who bought at low value 7.5, it seems like a really easy hold. Just hold on to the fella. Make sure you've got a good substitute would be more of the priority right now. And you've got people like Kilman and Struijk have just appeared. So there probably is no excuse, unless you've already made an early transfer and don't want to take a -4, which I understand. There's no excuse really for someone not to have a decent backup on the bench this week. Michael Wen, morning, James. Are you concerned about Pulisic playing on the right? I am. He looks uncomfortable. Got 39 transfers left in Sky. Too early to switch him out if it's a 2-pointer against United. For Sky, Michael, just leave it, mate. It's not even a condition to be selling him based on what you've seen so far. Before you know it, Ziyech could come back in the team and he goes back on the left. Simple as that. Him playing on the right makes him a bad fantasy asset, in my opinion. Needs to play on the left or in the hole, almost as part of a front two. But yeah, I wouldn't want him on the right. But give it a chance. Ziyech's not fit yet. Peter Brown, what City player would you be getting in this week? If I had to buy one, it'd still be Kevin De Bruyne. I could have moved from Bale to De Bruyne and one free transfer. I had the exact money for it. If De Bruyne dropped last night, I don't know if he did or he didn't, Kevin De Bruyne. If he dropped to 11.4, I had the money to do it. I'm not doing it anyway. I've already made a different move. But I just want to check if he dropped or not, Kevin De Bruyne. This is obviously making bad listening for the audio, but I'll just waffle on for a minute. You know how it is. No, he stayed at 11.5, so I wouldn't have been able to make that move anyway. He probably will be 11.4 tomorrow morning. Therefore, that would make him dangerous to buy now because you're probably instantly going to take a 0.1 hit on him. So therefore, it probably wouldn't be De Bruyne. I guess if I had to have bought one, it probably would be Aguero. I could have forced Jimenez to Aguero the same way, so it probably would have been that. But nah, not particularly interested. Again, I could have gone Bale to Sterling. I'd never thought about it too much, to be honest with you. The targets that I need are in other places at the moment, and I'll come back to Manchester City, and we all will once we fall into game week 10 with Burnley, Fulham, West Brom, 3 of 4. Southampton and Newcastle to follow that, making it 5 of 6 with the Manchester Derby at Old Trafford, the one in the third of those 6 fixtures. We're all going to be coming back to Manchester City game week 10. At game week 9, they're at Tottenham after playing Liverpool game week 8. So I'm not desperate. My thoughts on Liverpool and Man City over the next two, they've got the same 2 fixtures, basically, West Ham and Sheffield United, but in reverse order and home and away difference as well. West Ham been one of the best defensive sides so far. In spite of what happened in the first 15 minutes at White Hart Lane on Sunday. And Sheffield United, all right, they look shit at the moment, but they conceded 7 goals in 5 games. It's Liverpool conceded 7 in 1 game. So I'm not desperate personally on Man City and Liverpool this game week, and I won't be next either. The closer we get to obviously that game week 8 fixture, so I'm going past them. Kevin Wemmy says, "Hey James, any dire news on his availability?" I don't know. As I said, nobody asked Mourinho last night. So there's nothing to report, nothing to tell you. The game's not till Monday. Guessing, mate. Literally be guessing. If I had to guess now, I'd guess that he doesn't play. But it would be nothing more than that. It would just be a guess. Jack Wilson, game week 16 wildcard. Do you feel you could feel rushed and forced into using it even though team could be fine? Game week 9 looks good for fixture swing and you could set up well for double before. You can't set up for 18 and 19 blanks and doubles in game week 9. But what I will say on game weeks 18 and 19, this is worth saying. Obviously, the longer we go into this COVID period, as you see, we don't know the timings of the game week 8 fixtures yet, for example, and we're probably not going to know till, I guess, probably Thursday or Friday this coming week, unless something's announced today, of course, which I find unlikely. There is the possibility that when we wildcard, we don't know which games are blanks and doubles. That's becoming a possibility, I guess. I would hope at this stage that probably Manchester City and Manchester United, their rearranged games will probably fall in line. So you could just hammer the 2 game weeks with 6 from them. Get your budgets from Villa, Burnley makes sense because they're the other 2 games, and run with that as the worst case scenario. And then it would probably mean holding a free hit back to a different game week, which could prove handy further down the line. That's becoming a danger. I suspect we probably will know the blanks and doubles because you're going to want some sort of announcement for the Christmas period in terms of planning and stuff, I think. But, oh man, we're guessing away. So those like me are holding for game week 16. It could be that it's going to become a problem eventually. All that planning, you think, plan for the blanks and doubles. You get the game week 16 wildcard and you don't know which games are which week. That could be a nightmare. But I think we'll learn to deal with it. I'm not in a desperation to make wildcard. The idea of game week 9 looks obviously good for fixture swingers. Yes, there are fixture swings. I've spoken about Manchester City in game week 10. Leicester's another good one. Walking to Fulham, Sheffield United and Brighton from game week 9, for example. Villa, who obviously have a very good sustained run, but from game week 9, you could treble up on them. Brighton, West Ham, Newcastle, Wolves, Burnley, West Brom, Palace. Bloody hell. What a run that is for Aston Villa. It's Leeds, Southampton and Arsenal before that. They're not the only ones. I mean, even if you want cheap options, West Brom have a good game week 10 to 12. Newcastle even have a very good game week 10 to game week 14. There are some decent swings, absolutely. I think for me, not to wildcard in game week 16, it's going to be looking to manoeuvre things to power back into Manchester City from roundabouts game week 10 for sure. Manchester United also have a swing in game week 9, although it's quite a short swing, I would say. It's probably just the 3 fixtures, then they play Man City, then Sheffield United, then Leeds, Leicester, Wolves. Looks difficult again. Z21293. Hi, James. Need a City attacker for this week and next. Works out to be Sterling and Jimenez or Son and Aguero. What do you think? Have Kane, Salah, etc.? So you've got Son. If you go Son, Aguero, Kane, Salah, you got all 4 of them, have you? Fair fucks. I don't want to see the rest of your team, mate. Son and Aguero from that, mate. Riley O'Hagan, any news on Dyer? No, as covered. Matt Seward, morning, James. If you were wildcarding this week, would you put in 3 Villa players? And if so, who would you choose? Bloody good question. I would be very tempted to go Grealish and Barkley. And I think defensively, I would go Konsa. It's not to say Emi Martinez is a bad choice. He's not. I think I'm stuck in the fact that Brighton have decent fixtures, and the fact that they've conceded 11 goals from 15 shots on target, have conceded less shots on target than any other team in the league, is mind-blowing. So I'm quite happy to go with Ryan at the moment as the best defensive asset from them, in my opinion. You can obviously make case for Lamptey, but I've lost the value on that. So if you've got Lamptey, brilliant. But it would be Ryan for me, and therefore I think Konsa from Villa. That's probably the way I'd go. I don't think I'd go to treble. I think I'd end up going Konsa, choose week to week whether I'm going to play him or not. And I suspect I would go Grealish. I'd probably pay them more, but I'd have to look at the whole team to see what the setup is. I'd have no problem dropping down to Barkley. If there was one where I had to make a compensation money-wise, I think that's where I'd do it. So it could be that it'd end up being Ross Barkley. I'd need to look at it, to be honest. Wang King, what time does Harry wake up? My kid slept into 6 this morning. Harry had a bit of a lie-in this morning. Didn't get up to around about 7:45. No nursery for him today. He's shouting his head off in the other room. I know, I'm meant to be looking after him. Don't worry, the wife's here as well. But yeah, he's a random bugger. He'd wake up at 5:45 if he wants to. It's just, if he wants to get up, he gets up. If you don't want to get up, you don't want to get up. Simple as that. He's not. We've got good routines with him, but what time he wakes up doesn't seem to be one of them. He just does what he wants from that perspective. FP Andy, morning, James. Thoughts on last night? What did you make of Vinicius? Yeah, decent debut. A little bit overhyped. I agree with Mourinho's comments in terms of need to see more. actually. Whereas that 2 great assists. The assist for Lucas first goal was brilliant. Lovely knockdown for Sonny's third as well. Looks a good player, promising. He's quite athletic, which is pleasing. It's always a concern. You're going to get a lumbering lump up there like Llorente, who can't move. Llorente had his strengths, but movement wasn't one of them. The way we're playing at the moment, movement needs to be one of them. So he looks quite mobile for a big lad. Lovely left foot. You can tell technically he's got something about him. I need more, is what I'd say. He'd be nowhere near getting in like the Premier League team at the moment. Literally nowhere near it. But yeah, promising start. And Ace says, hi, James. What have you had for breakfast today? The honest truth is, Anne, I haven't had anything yet. And I've not actually been up that long. I've probably been up about an hour and a quarter. I haven't had anything yet. I had a coffee. Why have I only been up that long? Well, I was still writing an article for my advanced tier patrons at 2:45 last night on England tactically and why we should go back to a back 4, which I've been promising I'd do them for over a week. And I was like, fucking hell, if I don't get it done today, tomorrow's deadline. I'm not going to get it done tomorrow. Then the football's on weekend. Then it becomes next week. So I promised them I'd get that done. So that was posted for them last night. But yeah, after this, I'll edit. Then I'll record the differential show with Serge for patrons. And I think breakfast will probably become lunch. Matthew Izaji says, morning, Jack Wilson, Kane and Aguero on wildcard. I wouldn't be going Aguero, personally. I think that there's good things that we can learn from last week in terms of the performances of Aguero, Bale and Pulisic, right? That should we really be firing in these premium guys when they've had lengthy layoffs? Yeah, Aguero is very capable against West Ham. We know that historically, etc. I would not be going Sergio Aguero on wildcard, honestly. Doesn't appeal. Doesn't appeal. By the time you get to game week 10 and then brilliant fixtures, Jesus is going to be available is the way it looks. Then what? I wouldn't be going Aguero. Balder says, Max Kilman man a match twice for Wolves, I believe. Will be continued to play as a starter. Question. Good budget option. If I was on wildcard, I've been talking about that thing. I haven't looked at it yet. Another thing I'll do for my advanced tiers in a little bit. But Struijk and Kilman, yeah, I go both of them at the moment. Just get the value out of them and then shove it back out later. And okay, if neither of them, Struijk's going to play for a while, probably up to December wise, you're going to get value out of him. Kilman, I think stays in there and say he stays at left wing back, but that's going to change at any time. What I would say is he signed a new contract in a week, and if he come out the team, that would be bloody harsh. Him and Connor Cody and Bolly to a lesser extent were all brilliant at Leeds, particularly in that second half. So it would be really harsh if he came out the team. But if he wants to go and play Mark Howell there or the new lad Aït-Nouri, then it is probably Kilman rather than Saiss who will come out. So I don't know. I'm not Nuno Santo, but it would be harsh if he didn't play. Vishal says, hey, James. Manaf says, from the eye test, it seems Liverpool attacking mostly through the left, with Salah left to feed on scraps. Will Mane be a better option going forward? Ah, dear. The thing is with this one, and I realise it is highlighted more, it's a small sample of games, right? Worth saying that Trent didn't have a very... Cisse didn't have a pre-season. Obviously, a lot of players didn't have a pre-season, but Trent basically had none. Go back to game week 1 and remember that the Trent was kind of doubtful, if you remember correctly. So Trent's kind of been having his pre-season now. We know that Robertson bombs on more than Trent anyway. This is nothing new. Yes, it's happening a little bit more, but it could be that it's small sample size. So really, I'm not looking too much into that, honestly. Pushcast says, should I upgrade Ings to Kane or Bruno to Mane? Already have Salah and Son. Harry, mate. Harry, yeah. Look, if I went for Harry Kane, and you know what I'm like with my negative Spurs bias, so says it all really, doesn't it? Yeah, go Harry, mate. The thing is, Harry becomes a great captaincy option for you this week if you bring him in. The majority of people are going to captain Salah or Kane. Really, let's be honest about it. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some differentials, a few Manes, a few Sterlings, a few Trents even, maybe I've heard knocking about, a few Robertsons maybe even, but most people are going to captain Salah or Kane. The chances are their effective ownership is probably quite possibly both going to be over 100%. That's possible. So if you're having one and you're not captaining them, if they return, there's a good chance it's gonna cost you rank, right? Which is always an unenjoyable place to be. Which I'd suffered so much with Kevin De Bruyne last year, and I don't know why I didn't stick the armband on him more. It's having a player that is no good for you in the team. So if you've got no intention of captaining Harry Kane in the next 3 fixtures, push guard, then I don't mind you making the other move because it would be more of a differential for you. Not that Bruno's a differential. Sebo Slice says, happening, Jamesy boy. Yeah, good, mate. You. FPO, bro. Hey, James. Thoughts play Wilson v Newcastle or Saiss? Wilson of Newcastle or Saiss. Obviously, they're playing against each other. On paper, it looks like Wolves clean sheet all day long, doesn't it? Play Callum Wilson, mate. You got to forward at Callum Wilson's value. They're playing Wolves away. You're not going to play him. There's a point you should start questioning if he should be in your team. Callum Wilson, by the way, is the 3rd highest scoring striker in FPL at the moment. Play Callum Wilson, mate. I'd like to find a different solution there, though, because Saiss should probably play for you as well. Chris Durrans, hi, James. One question. Aguero, nostalgia pick or excellent differential ownership around 3%. Excellent differential. I'm not saying don't buy him. It's just not a consideration for me. There's too much can go wrong with it. I guess in the sense that he's a differential, that makes it less to lose, maybe. You're taking a bit more of a punt. I would not be sticking the armband on him, though. No way. I don't think you would against Sheffield United next week either. And then it's Liverpool, then it's Tottenham. So you're taking a big chunk of money for a player that I think you're not going to captain in the next 4 game weeks. Now, of course, the flip side of that is if he performs well against Sheffield United's, West Ham tomorrow, then you might think he's a great captaincy option away to Sheffield United. Is he better than Liverpool at home to West Ham? Or even Tottenham at home to Brighton? I don't think he is. So it's not for me. Mr. Grouch 86 says, good morning. Good morning to you too, Jack Wilson. You think Reece James starts this weekend? Question. Been very good in Champions League and for England. Reece James is going to be a guessing game every week, Jack. Unfortunately, this is a bad option. Go back to Clash of the Correspondence next week and listen to what Ted, more rotation FPL, said about him. So, fullbacks, you just can't at the moment, particularly those 2 at right back, because you don't know what they're going to do. I won't be surprised if Azpilicueta plays left back and Reece James plays right back and Chilwell doesn't play. It's going to be a nightmare. If you own Chelsea fullbacks, you're going to have this dilemma every week. But you've probably got to play him. You've got to take the chance. The issue with Reece James, and Mark Southerns highlighted this really well on Black Box in the week, was because he can play in multiple positions, like he can play in midfield as well, he could come on for a 5-minute cameo, which is not the case with most defensive options, either play or don't play. With Reece James, you don't even get away from that. It's a nightmare. So, unfortunately, it's a move on. But you're not going to. You're not going to move him on. Because after Man United, it's Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle. And you can keep having this debate every week. And you know what? If at some point over those 3 fixtures, he gets you a 15-point haul, he's probably worth holding. But it's going to be a nightmare for you every week. Rob Pick says, which one of these 3 would you start, mate? Only one. Konsa, Chilwell, Dallas. Konsa. I think at the moment with Leeds' potential issues injury-wise, we're obviously not going to know the team before tonight. But if Cooper's not playing, that's potentially spelling trouble from as well with the lack of protection from Calvin Phillips. And fascinating to see how Leeds deal with that. Losing Phillips is a really big blow. So I would have to be Konsa, I think, mate. But then Ben Chilwell, again, he's not the sort of player you should leave out. So now, fuck it. I played Ben Chilwell, mate. He ain't keeping the clean sheet. I think Villa Leeds will be 1-1 tonight. Personally, would be my best guess. Not Dallas. It's not easy. You shouldn't be leaving Chilwell out. Don't fear Manchester United. Vishal Patel says, would you recommend Rashford as differential over Bruno? Fantasy Football Hub predictor as Rashford has more points and he plays up front. Well, I haven't finalised my captaincy selections for this game, but my instinct would be that Rashford would be higher up than Fernandes this week again. I think they probably stay with that system, as I said at the top of the show. I think they stay with that system that they played in Paris, 3 at the back at the with probably Rashford through the middle. I don't know if Cavani is going to be available or not. I think Solskjaer's suggesting with midweek is probably off fitness-wise. If I could play Rashford and Cavani together, that would be great. Greenwood's a doubt as well. Obviously, Martial suspended. They want to play Dan James in that position. Could be even that they go a back five, play a diamond in front that allows Fernandes just behind Rashford, and Rashford plays as a lone forward, quite isolated, and they seed in the wide areas as possible. Rashford almost definitely plays through the middle. So, yeah, I can understand him being rated higher this game week. He also scored twice in the same fixture last year. And historical things do stick in your mind. Lee Jackson says, I'm on wildcard and I've got Kane and Salah, no City players locked in, but can only afford one of Sterling and Son. Which would you go for? Got to be Sonny over these next three, mate. He's on fire. Honestly, he played half hour last night. He could have got a hat-trick. He's on fire. And when I say he could have got a hat-trick, it's not him missing chances. It's the final ball just being a bit heavy and him being in behind. Tottenham looking for it all the time. That'll be very difficult at Burnley this week, no doubt. But might be a bit easier against Brighton and West Brom in the next two fixtures. So, yeah, it got to be Sonny at the moment. He's on fire, mate. Rob Pick. How did Bell look for Spurs last night? Heard that Vinicius was really bright. So cover Vinicius already up. Bale is not fit. I wish I hadn't brought him for FPL. I'm not going to force him out because I think he probably plays an hour again on Monday. Or if he doesn't, he plays half hour when we need a goal. And Burnley going to sit deep. And if they are a team. Jack Toner at Turfy Topper will tell you this. They are a team that invite long distance shots. And the man's a phenomenon shooting from range, whether he's fit or not. So happy for him to stay. I think by the time we get to the Brighton fixture, Gareth will probably be in the team. But he's being managed very, very carefully. He really is. He's not fit. He's nowhere near fit. The flip of that, it could be that, you know, you ease yourself. The game was so easy last night. Spurs have won to the 1-6-7-0. Couldn't be bothered. Was so easy. They played a high line of a back three. They were asking to get destroyed. So it could be that he's realised that he's an experienced player and he's gone. I don't need to over-insert myself. I think it was quite clear that it was pre-planned, that he was only going to play an hour. All the technical stuff is still there. It doesn't quite have the yard of obviously 7 years ago, but a lot of that might come down to fitness. Definitely not an FPL option if you're looking to buy him this week, though. But I think for those like me who took the plunge, it is what it is. We've got 3 more fixtures and then we'll reassess. I think that's the best thing to do. Tom Ford said, hi, James. What do you advise doing with James Rodriguez in Sky? Advise keeping him, mate. Jack Wilson, VVD to Diaz, thoughts for Sky? Absolutely fine. Jack obviously covered this a lot on Wednesday's podcast in terms of where to go. Diaz is a very, very reasonable solution. Alistair Coper says, morning, James. I'd planned to bring in Dominic Calvert-Lewin finally this week. Do you reckon I should do it another week now that Richarlison and Reece James are both out? Thanks. So I bought Calvert-Lewin last night for Chris Wood, thought about it, and me being me, obviously Richarlison out, suspended, Calvert-Lewin. So hang on, now they're missing the 2 best creators. I'm going to take him out and put Calvert-Lewin in. That doesn't make sense. Now's not the time, James. But it was always kind of fixture plan and wasn't going to get him in before Liverpool. Obviously, he scored, but look, Jimenez scored and stuff. Other players who scored, he didn't get a big return. So it's unlikely. He was always likely to return a big haul against Liverpool. So it was always about looking again afterwards. And Wood to Calvert-Lewin, I realise not many people might be in that situation. But it seems like quite a straightforward, obvious move, no? And it's not just about this week. It's Newcastle next, who concede tons of efforts on goal. Manchester United at home afterwards shouldn't hold fear. He returned in that fixture last year and then Fulham away. And I'm looking at it and going, even if I wait, he's still going to be shooting up in value because of the fixtures that are coming up. Then I can reassess. Leeds Burnley as well completes the next 6 for Calvert-Lewin. Brilliant fixtures. So, you know, and you could say, oh, it gets worse. Chelsea homes after that. Is it worse? Leicester away. Are they as good as we thought of? Arsenal at home. Is it scary? Sheffield United away. Then it's Christmas. So I looked at it and gone, do you know what? He's going to go up again. He'll go up in value tonight. I'd probably should get him in, hold him, reassess. And when he starts having blanks and people go, oh, fuck, I'm a million up on him. What shall I do? It'll be an easier decision for me, but it's also safe at the moment from the value perspective. I actually think with those injuries, Everton could well get beat this weekend now. But do you ever fancy Southampton for a clean sheet? Thing is, right, we talk about goal involvement a lot. If Everton score this weekend, I ask you now, with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin out, who's most likely to score? It's him, isn't it? We're actually in serious goal involvement territory here as well. While those two are out, his goal involvement percentage, oddly enough, should probably jump up a bit. Although it's fucking huge anyway. So, yeah, I've got him in. I think it's the right thing to do. It obviously depends who you're selling, Alistair. It's really important to say that. I would say if you're, I don't know, if you're looking to sell like an Ings or a Jimenez, for example, I probably wouldn't do it. For me, I think it was quite a straightforward choice to go with to Calvert-Lewin. Sebo Slice says, Hammers replacements, James, for FPL Sky. It's a keep, I think. He might even play. We don't think he will, don't get me wrong. But I think it's a hold, isn't it? I think it's a hold. Pushkar says, what do you make of the Mason Greenwood situation at Man United? He had been given disciplinary warnings, dropped even though he's fit. Too harsh? He's a young boy. And playing for Manchester United obviously comes with great oppression, and playing for anybody else as well. You're very much under scrutiny. Just broke into the England squad that was holding Barco in Iceland. No matter how good a talent is, you have to put your foot down, because very quickly it becomes something that's out of control. So sometimes you have to take one step backwards to take two steps forwards with young kids of immense ability. And I love him as a footballer. He's got super ability. Is it too harsh? No. I think particularly United, you've got to set standards. You've got to set standards. And they don't have the dressing room that they would have had 10, 15 years ago with players that would have dealt with players. And then you've got Sir Alex Ferguson as well. It's not the same. So a tough line is probably the right way to go. FPL Tips is in. Says, good morning, LOH. Hope you're well. Jack Wilson says, Joel Ward, good option. I think Jack probably the best Palace option, personally, if I had to buy one. Decent run of fixtures for a sustained period. If I was on wildcard, I'd strongly consider Joel Ward, actually. I think just probably the case that the timing, if you were on wildcard now, just looks like Struijk and Kilman. Probably leave yourself a little bit in the bank in case suddenly it looks bad with Kilman and you need to move it out for whatever reason. But that's probably the way to go at the moment. So there's two options. There's one we know it looks like for the next 6 weeks in Struijk. And Kilman was great for Wolves in the week, right? If he stays in, great. You can play him in the next two home fixtures and then leave him on the bench where it looks a bit tougher, So I probably wouldn't be looking at Joel Ward at the moment, but I'd probably want to leave a space open for Palace, actually. Pushkar says, just an off-bit question. What couple of sports other than football do you like engaging in? None. Look, when we accuse people of being glory hunters, that's me when there's other big sports on. So like Wimbledon's on, I'm part interested. Rugby World Cup, I'm interested. Cricket World Cup and Ashes, I'm interested. Otherwise, I'm not, to be honest. Formula One, if I have to turn it over at the right time, I'm interested in lap one. Snooker is a game I used to play quite regularly. So I've always got a little bit of interest. But to be honest, even with that, I'd only watch the World Championships, or if I was channel hopping, something has to be on. Let's have a look for 10, 15 minutes. Not particularly interested in any other sports, to be honest. Virendra says, morning, James. Thank you for the private Q&A by Suj yesterday. Oh, my God. It was so hilarious. So Suj set up a YouTube Ask Suj, his first one for patrons, because it was his 40th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Suj. Happy birthday, Pele, today. He's 80 today as well. What a player. And I'm not talking about Suj. And anyway, so he set the fucking video to public, didn't he? The plonker. So I put in the chat, how long before Sud realizes that he hasn't set the chat to private? And I sent the link out to the video on YouTube. I thought, well, if he sent it public, there's no point hiding it from anyone. Might as well say, look, he set it to public. You can all watch it if you want. Anyway, he had quite a few people in there watching. It was about 80 or 85 or so. And he got to my comment about not setting the video to private. So he set it to private and it threw everybody out except one person was still watching. which was me, because obviously I got the login to the Planet FPL account. So I was signed in like he was signed in. So after all that, he's basically having his own single man podcast, none like our regular podcast. I'm shutting up and he's talking. And he's not realizing that the numbers have obviously dropped dramatically. So I've had to phone him and say, mate, what are you doing? So he set it back to public and then everyone could get back in. But then I think he's changed it to private again, so still no one can see it. I might change it to public so you can have a watch of it, to be honest. I should do, really, because it was available. Danny Burns says, hi, James. Got James Rodriguez on my wild card last week. I was hoping to bank a transfer. With the injury news, I'm debating a 1 week punt, as I've got the 0.2 value currently, and he's due to drop. Thoughts? Is he due to drop? Is he due to drop? Oh, he's not going to drop before the deadline anyway. Let's see what FPL statistics is saying on and I realise it's more difficult for statistics and fix at the moment with lack of knowledge, etc. Is he close to? He might fall. He might not. Is what I'd suggest. Tough one. If you've got no other fires, great. Bin him and go back if that's what you want to do. Denver says, morning, James. As always, top advice. Should I keep James Rodriguez and get in 4.5 million defender or sell for? There's way too many names going on there, Denver. I appreciate the question, but it's just too many options going on there, mate. Alex Abdella says, hey, morning. Got Kane in. Is it worth taking a -8 for Son? If no, is it still worth getting him in next week? It would still mean a -4 and would include a move from TAA to Robertson to free up funds. The answer, Alex, is going to be no, because I'm not wavering yet on Trent and Robertson. I'm certainly not wavering before they play Sheffield United. So, answer's no, mate. Danny McDonald, morning, James. Thoughts on Bale's performance last night and your thoughts about his FPL potential? I just covered that about 10 minutes or so ago, Danny. FPL Platypus, morning, James. Hope you enjoyed the game last night. What are your thoughts now on removing either Reguilon, Bale to get Kane in? I mean, if you've got Bale and you haven't got Kane, make a switch. Genuinely. Reguilon, we discussed the Clash of the Correspondence yesterday with Ricky Saunders and Turfy Topper. We previewed Burnley Tottenham in more detail. And me and Ricky both had a kind of inkling that Reguilon might not play on Monday. There's nothing sustainable in that. It's just an opinion that Davis might play in that position against Burnley and the way they play. I imagine Reguilon probably does start, and you probably don't move Reguilon if you've got him for the next 3. There's people that want to buy a Reguilon at the moment, so you probably keep. Rhinos Leeds, would you take the match of the day gig if your co-pundit was he who shall not be named? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take match of the day gig anyway. Genuinely, because they're not analysis. They're just there to commentate on goals and things they've seen. You probably get 1 clip a week on match of the day we're allowed to do proper analysis, and it would frustrate the hell out of me. So we've had this brilliant game, Leeds Man City, and all you want to do is show the 2 goals again and how they happened. No, come on. It would frustrate me too much. John Mould, thoughts on getting Bale in for next few games, then change to Bruno for game week 9, or would rather just buy Bruno at this stage, if that's what you're thinking. FPL Glasto, hold J-Rod, even if it means playing Taylor versus your lot. Got me, Sonny and Kane. Yeah, I mean, Burnley are always capable, right? And if it rolls up to be a clean sheet, it might compensate you for a little bit. If Spurs score, it'd be very unlikely that Kane or Son's not involved somewhere in the goal. So, I mean, yeah, it will cover you a little bit. I think it's a hold. For most people, it's going to be hold. Anybody who's got sort of 0.5, 0.4 anyway, it's got to be a hold, I think, at the moment. Anuj says, would you transfer out Barnes and bring in Grealish? Probably would, actually, yeah. Dread FPL, morning, James. Salah or Kane captain? I will be on Harry Kane. I think the best choice is probably just Salah. Just. Really, really close call. But I think I'd go with Salah because the record in home fixtures against Liverpool. But Sheffield United, can anybody really, really picture Liverpool going there and winning Liverpool beating Sheffield United 4 or 5-0? I can't. I mean, I can picture it being 2-0 and Salah scoring twice. That's kind of the point, I guess. I can see that. Which team's more likely to get 4 or 5 this game week? Is it Liverpool or Spurs? It might be Spurs, but then Spurs are more likely to get beat than Liverpool, for example. So it depends on how you want to look at it. I think just Salah. I think if I own Salah, I'd probably captain Salah. It was really close, though. Don't fear Harry Kane because it's an away game. Does just as well away from home as he does at home. It's proven over years. Clayton says, good morning, Mr. Grouch86. Is it too greedy to start with Aguero, Werner and Kane up top? Nope. Garang Barrett, Kane and Aguero. It's not a conversation at the moment, mate. Obviously, Aguero could outscore Harry Kane, but it's got to be Harry at the moment. Adam Keane on morning, James. You got some serious bed hair there, mate. What's the odds on? Cheers, mate. What's the odds on Bale playing this weekend? Probably about 70%. Probably as good as it's going to be. Lewis Coles. Hi, James. Dean or Chilwell to replace Doherty? It's quite straightforward. It's got to be Luca Dean, isn't it? Not the Chelsea fullbacks. Or Recluse, would you gamble and move James Rodriguez to KDB this week? No. Oliver Render. Morning, James. Kane worth a -4 this week when it involves getting rid of Trent and Maupay. It's not, mate. Not for me. He'd have to be your captain if he was going to do that. Have to be. Rob Warnock. I was umming and erring over who to sell out of Jimenez or Ings for Kane. It was a real form / eye test versus fiction situation. End up selling Ings. I then sold Jimenez for Werner anyway. Good moves. Rob, don't regret. You've made the decisions. That's it. That's it. You did Werner and Kane, before last week? Brilliant. If you got 48 points out of them, isn't it? If you've done it now, Jimenez to Werner this week, don't see that. Don't see that. Salah Hamwe. Hi, James. Zaha or Grealish? Be Grealish for me, mate. I know Zaha's got Fulham and he's got a good run of fixtures. He's going to frustrate the shit out of you. Carrot Dude says, would you captain Kane or Salah? Just covered that. Fantasy Scout 11. Podence worth a hold. He played well against Leeds, but was surprisingly taken off early. Podence is fire in the sense that he's put him out of the fire when you have no other fires to deal with. That's what I would suggest. 2 good fixtures. Newcastle home, Palace at home. Yes, as he starts, he's going to be the first one getting hooked. If he doesn't start, he's going to be the first one getting brought on. He could return in a half hour or so. He could flop and come off after 55 minutes. I think he's a move on, but he's a move on if you've got no other issues. If he's your biggest issue, move him on, depending on who you can get to. If you can only come down in price, genuinely, say what I've been saying since game week 1, Suchek, get you ready for game week 8. FPL Tits, thoughts from Region. What game percentage do you expect him to play roughly with Davis? Oh, a lot, H. I expect him to play a lot. It's just a thought in terms of trying to lock it up defensively because of Burnley and the fact that Burnley might try and target him aerially. But I mean, if they pull Wood onto the far side to go up against Davis, Wood's still going to win everything. So it doesn't make a huge amount of difference from that perspective. So I expect Region to play 80% of the time, at least, if he's fit. Ray Guna, just on that, I mentioned Europa League. Tottenham obviously made 8 changes last night. The opposition was weak. What Mourinho wants to do is wrap that group up as quick as possible before we have 2 more Europa League games in December. He basically wants them 2 games in Europa League in December to be a foregone conclusion so they don't matter. And he can do whatever he wants with them. That's what he wants to do. But there's such depth in the squad that there's no reason really for... I know Ben Davies played at centre-half last night. There's no real reason for Ben Davies to have to be covering there, generally speaking. In the league, he can play the Europa League games. I'm sure Ben Davies is going to play pretty much all the Europa League games. That would be my instinct at the moment. Ray Guna says, I got KDB. Don't own any Spurs. We'll do KDB's son, most likely. Thanks, mate. No problems. Bad man shoes. Morning, James. Would you play Mitchell over Gabriel? No, I played Gabriel, actually, I think. It's not all well at Leicester at the moment. Mind you, fucking Fulham. Does he stay in the team, Mitchell? Oh, jeez. I think I played Gabriel, FPL 10, Josh, I need to move Vasiliev to a Maupay price bracket this week. Dyer uncertainty and Taylor on the bench. Is it worth moving Dyer to Saiz from -4 or play Taylor? Benching Rodriguez was bought for 7.5. I suspect you'll end up doing that hit, but it's probably not worth it. Ray Gooner says, have you ever considered getting into coaching? It's obviously enjoying and very good at observing and analysing tactics within games. No, I haven't, because this doesn't work for me. Priorities, what's on the badge, right? It's Tottenham. Everything falls away before Tottenham. I've done jobs before where I've done stupid hours so I could make sure I watch Tottenham. So it's only been the last few years that I've kind of had 9 to 5 since when I worked with Suj and stuff. So no, it's not. I think when the boy is older and he wants to start playing football, if he wants to start playing football, then it's something I would maybe look at again in terms of, can I help kids in some sort of way? But actually doing it professionally and stuff, no, I couldn't be missing Spurs. It's as simple as that. Goblin 140, hi James, what's your take on the classic 10s role in modern football? Do you see it changing in the future? Will at some point a number 10 behind the striker become the go-to at the highest level? It'll come back around. It'll come back around. It's all about wide forwards at the moment. Adam Pritchard, he actually tweeted this again the other day. A brilliant article he wrote for us about a year ago about the death of the number 10, kind of related to around Ozil, but not just Ozil, and the fact they don't exist anymore, or the roles changed. Not a lot of people seem to realise this, but Tanguy Ndombele's playing 10 for Tottenham at the moment, and so will Lo Celso probably if should he replace him. So they are still about. They are still happening. You've got basically Havertz playing it at Chelsea. It's not a death, but most people now are not doing it. The problem is, to play the position now, it's got to be more about what you are as a 10. It's got to be what you do off the ball, without the ball. And that's why it's changed. Because these players generally are a luxury. It's become easier to fill them in as a luxury in wide areas. That's the reality. Mark Dorney says, morning, James. Sunday captain on Sky, Gabriel or Patricio? Yeah, Patricio, I think there, Mark. Sujan Shah is in the chat, says, good morning. I'm going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. I was only meant to do half hour this morning, guys. So if you do get a question now, I probably won't get to you, I'm afraid. As he says, can Sterling keep up with other premium options? Of course he can. Diagonal Record says, hi, James. We're going to start James Rodriguez just in case. Want best option as first sub. Would you go for Bissouma or Justin? Thanks. Bissouma has got a 3-pointer in him, as opposed to Justin's probably 1-pointer this week. James Jury, the Iceman, is in. It says, James, Captain Trent, you know it means sense. Mr. James Drury dropped in my DMs yesterday and he just said, Trent captain. Here's my take on it, James. Trent Alexander-Arnold cannot be my fucking captain while Adrian is in goal for Liverpool. And that's my take on it. He will be my vice captain, but he'll be my vice captain purely because I don't want to captain 2 players from the same team in Kane and Heung-min Son. So Trent will be my vice captain. Captain him. Is he the best option? Really? Really, James? Adrian in goal? It's not right, is it? But it's okay. I don't hate it. I think the thing is, if you got Salah or Kane, you're burnt this week. If they return and you're not captain them, you might as well not have them to a certain extent. So Iceman, if you're sitting there with no Mo Salah, no Harry Kane, you want to captain Trent as a brilliant little captaincy differential against arguably the weakest attack in the league, I don't mind it. I don't hate it. Stuart Robinson, but I won't be doing it. Stuart Robinson says, hi, James. Would you do Sterling to Salah for -4 and captain already have Kane? No. I'd probably just captain Kane, to be honest. Goblin 140, should we prepare our team structure for at least 2 City premiums from Game Week 10? Seems almost essential. Nothing is essential. Red card. Late riser, good friend of the show. Late riser, right? No Son, no Kane, 91 points last week. Nobody's essential. Get over this bullshit about anyone's essential. Official account every day tweeting out, oh, Spurs players must have. No, he's just proved it, late riser. If you've got a good rest of the team, no one's essential. It's nonsense. Sick and tired of that word. Kieran Fail, good morning, James. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Thanks, Kieran. Paul Wolf doubled up on Villa with Grealish and Barkley. Best defender to get on triple up. Went to replace one of Mitchell, Justin Davis or Ayling. I covered Konsa a bit earlier. So, yeah, concert the price point just makes sense. Villa's fullbacks are not attacking in the way that they have done in the past. It's one of the reasons they're a little bit more solid at the moment. Post 2 points. Spurs owned that last night. Straightforward, mate. Optimus Prime, your captaincy options. You'll see them all at R+5, mate. But yeah, Salah and Kane, basically. Ray Guna, I'm on the double pull defense and planning on downgrading TAA next week so I can fix other fires in my team. First time won't be my team since the start of last season. Emotional times. Yeah, Allison might be back next week. Sean Talon, hi James, keep up the great work with the pods. Would you take a -4 to go Wood to Watkins? Got no Villa. No, I wouldn't. I very nearly kept Chris Wood. Tottenham at home, Chelsea at home next. Neither can defend from set pieces. He's brilliant in the air. He's not a bad option to keep hold of. Just for me, Woods to Calvert-Lewin was sensible. Lee Rossi, yes, Ross Barkley is an option. Jamie says, take -4 hit for Barnes to Grealish. Probably not worth the -4. Kieran Fell, I know you probably touched on your thoughts on Bell's initial performances. Did. If you have, just let me know and I'll watch it back. I did. Els quadruple 1. Morning, James. Couple of questions. What did you make of Bale last night? Yeah, I've covered it, guys. Have a little rewind. Fancy Scout 11. Hi, James. Podence worth a hold. Covered Podence as well. Optimus says, one more, James. I just noted that for 3 years, Man City have 16 and more clean sheets. Is Diaz 5.5 set and forget defense? And Man City are level out on them clean sheets. I said so will Liverpool. Honestly, they'll get 14, 15 clean sheets. We'll get a similar number to what they got last year. I've no doubt about it. Do you know what Van Dijk being out will do for them? Will concentrate minds that he won't get them out of it. And actually, I think Fabinho is very capable of playing the role well. Joe Gomez has had a bad start to the season, but he's generally a good defender. Actually, a little bit of ownership in terms of what he's doing and not relying on his mate might be good for him. And Joel Matip's good. Joel Matip is a good centre-half, honestly. It's not a disaster. Don't get me wrong. Liverpool are obviously weaker. Van Dijk is one of, if not the best centre-half on the planet. Of course, they are weaker. But there are 3 other good options there. And I suspect if they need to, they'll buy in January as well. I genuinely am not bothered about it. And once Alisson comes back, I think Alisson is more important to Liverpool than Van Dijk. I really, really do. You've got to have a goalkeeper that can save the ball. So Alisson's more important than Van Dijk, and he's about to come back. It's going to be a big positive for him. When everything feels negative at the moment, a big positive is about to come into the situation for them. And they'll learn to play together. Genuinely, Liverpool and City will finish the season, I would have thought, with the most clean sheets, and it will be 14, 15, 16, similar to what it was last season. I don't doubt that. Benny Blanco says, who would you rather have in the short term, Wilson or Barnes? Need to lose 1 to fund Kane. Do you need a -4 if it's Harvey Barnes that you're moving? I presume it's not Ashley Barnes, Benny. Callum Wilson, Wolves, Everton, Southampton, Chelsea, next 4. Then they do have a good run. You could argue that Newcastle up until game week 15 when they played City and Liverpool back-to-back is good. He'll end up sitting there for a long time, won't he? I don't know if I'm comfortable with a Newcastle attacker personally. I'd be moving on Callum Wilson probably. Wolves, Everton next 2 is quite stingy, isn't it? It's probably a good time to move on. You can always go back to it. Benny Blanca says for Sky, I can move Rodriguez out to KDB in 1 move. Are the gains worth the chance for cheers and good luck? Probably not. But if you see KDB's playing and then you want to captain him, do it. Optimus says, call me stupid, but really I can't see clean sheets for Villa with Leeds and Southampton game week 6 and 7. I call you stupid. No, I don't mind that at all. Don't mind that at all. Villa have had, obviously, as I mentioned previously, Sheffield United, Fulham, which were good fixtures in terms of clean sheet. They're saying Martinez nearly threw one in against Fulham, and it was fractionally offside for VAR. I feel like everyone's forgot that. The Liverpool game was mental, obviously. And obviously, they kept a very good clean sheet at Leicester and probably deserved to do so. A Leicester side that was missing Jamie Vardy. Sometimes things fall for you in the right way. Do I think Villa will keep a clean sheet against Leeds or Southampton? No, probably don't, to be honest. I agree with you. We do have a very good sustained run and their players do offer good value. No doubt about it. The D-production opinion about Pulisic, who's 8.3 million. Should I switch for someone cheaper who could be more helpful? So why did you get him in? Give it a chance. You've made the move. Give it a chance. Tony says Werner to Kane for free transfer. Already have Son. Is it worth selling Ramsdale for -4? And who planning wildcard later? So plenty of time to gain this 4 points. I tell you what, I would never be up for removing a goalkeeper for a -4. But if you were going to do it, now would probably be the week to do it. Yeah, with Ramsdale playing Liverpool away. Not keen on. See, the thing is, Ramsdale even take penalties out of the situation. Ramsdale get 3 or 4 pointer tomorrow quite easy. So I don't know if that's worth it. Right, clock has just struck 1 hour on my timeline, guys. So I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for those who've obviously also answered questions. Oh, bloody hell, there are loads of you. Sorry that I've not got through to you. On the Ask James, it's always going to be a slower pace when I answer the questions. So it will be first come, first serve. It will probably be with a Friday deadline again next week. It will probably be same time next week. I will be on YouTube again later. 5:30 p.m. final hour until the deadline. We'll bring my captaincy options up, my confirmed team for the weekend, and it will be fast paced. I'll get through as many of you as I can as quick as possible. 5:30 to 6:30. Keep a very important eye on those press conferences this morning and this afternoon, guys. Don't take what I said in the first 10 minutes as literally gospel. There will be further news this afternoon, so do keep an eye out for that. If you haven't made your transfer yet today or for the weekend, I suggest wait 4 or 5 hours. Make sure you've got all the information first. Other than that, I'll hopefully see many of you again around about 5:30 for the benefit of those listening on the audio. Cue music, please, man child.